Back in 2017, the world was graced with one of the greatest games to ever exist in Hollow Knight. A game so exceptional it single-handedly revived the Metroidvania genre and returned it to the limelight. However, this caused a cascading effect as we began to see many Hollow Knight-likes thereafter. Hand-drawn Metroidvanias using their own mediocrity to cling to the coattails of excellence. Dust: An Elysian Tale was one of the first in this genre, and was actually so early to it that the game released 5 whole years before Hollow Knight. Sarcasm aside, Dust was actually critically acclaimed when it released, another example of the growing quality of indie titles at the time, like Cave Story or Meat Boy. When I saw this game in my Steam library, collecting Dust, I felt that familiar pang of nostalgia, similar to when I see my local dumpster. However, I originally played this game as a child, and even then, I thought it was incredibly easy, even on the hardest difficulty. Generally, thoughts and hubris like that tend to lead me down bad paths. But I got a good feeling this time. Can you beat Dust: An Elysian Tale without leveling up? Our tale begins with Dust. And this isn't some Dark Souls, the roots of our world type of bullshit, you know? But like literally our main character is named Dust. You wake up randomly in a forest and are met with this talking sword and annoying flying mascot pet thing that follows you around and breaks the fourth wall constantly. Which is actually a concept that would be shamelessly stolen by Genshin Impact years later. Despite having no memories or any indication of hireable skills, the sword has chosen Dust to be its wielder, because you clearly have a great destiny ahead of you, and off you go. After going through the tutorial woods and saving an elderly couple from some scary giants, Dust would wander into Aurora Village. Being that he is this wandering Ronin/gunslinger type, everyone naturally assumes that he's there to fix their problems and put the legwork in to save the village. And by golly, they're right. You know, despite not knowing much about him, I think I got a pretty good read on Dust here. He obviously has some deep-seated insecurities that people think he's ugly. So he covers that up with puns, references, and altruism, in hopes that people like him more. I'll admit that this challenge was initially going to be a no level ups and no items challenge run. But after getting the achievement for a 1000 hit combo in the second level of the game, I decided to ditch the no items run. Surprisingly, one of the hardest parts of this challenge was actually the beginning though. At base level, you'll deal 4 damage with your basic strikes. And even though early on I decided to drop the no items rule, the beginning gear is mostly only an increase of around 1 to 10 damage maximum, with enemies scaling past that almost immediately. It's obvious that this game intends for you to put some of your first few level ups into your damage or Fidget's damage, as both of those initial level ups will be pretty substantial. A 3 times increase for your damage, and a 15 times increase for Fidget's damage. Later on, it will be possible to get much stronger gear, as well as gear that can increase my drop rate luck, which will be needed as soon as possible. Until then, however, I just dealt with the ever-widening gap between my damage and the enemy's health bars, as I really just could not be bothered to farm trash mobs with my shit damage for blueprints and crafting materials. 2 grueling hours of mobbing later, I finally made it to the first boss of the game. Armored Mewtwo from the first Pokemon movie. By this point in the game, everything was already one-shotting me, and my completely pitiful damage against Fuse forced me to perform one especially heinous act. I learned the combos and attack patterns of the boss. Money was a little tight this month, so I couldn't buy as many healing items for the boss. But after some experimenting, I did find a combo that can almost stunlock Fuse. After the battle, it seems that Fuse knew of Dust. before he lost his memories. Before he woke up in those woods and became the man standing before you, he was a killer, a force of nature eradicating all of these so-called moonbloods off the face of the earth. Witnessing all this wanton death and destruction caused Fuse here to lose his mind and start raging against the world itself. Which is weird, because this is a concept that would be shamelessly stolen by Fury years later. In his dying breaths, Fuse told Dust about General Gaius and his campaign against these Moonbloods. After every major boss kill, we get a cutscene showing what General Gaius is up to. While these cutscenes don't really do anything to move the plot along, as it generally just kinda tells you what you just learned, I find them all incredibly strange, as there is this random 3D model on this soldier here. After making it back to the village, Dust goes to the mayor and Ginger in hopes of finding out more about this General Gaius and these Moonbloods. They both make it pretty clear that General Gaius is the big bad in this story, and Dust should seek him out. But before that can happen, monsters attack the village. Again. At some point during the mobbing of the last section, I managed to obtain a Flak Sheath blueprint, which is an item that would increase my base damage by 50. And my damage would still be pretty bad, especially since there's no way for me to increase Fidget's damage. But heading into Act 2, I would be able to really cut down on how much time each encounter was taking me. Chapter 2. This and Chapter 3 feel like the pointless character building filler arcs that you will see in anime. You know the ones that I'm talking about. Think about that time in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where they went to the digital world. Or think about that time in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where they went to the digital world. Or think about that time in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where they... The plot for our arc here is that monsters from the caves below are attacking Aurora Village, and Dust heads down to investigate. It turns out that, similar to the surface, the water springs down here are drying up, and it's all because of that dastardly General Gaius and his senseless war on the surface. It seems like he's spilled so much blood, it's soaked all the way down to the bedrock, polluting the mind of our water goddess deep below the earth. And she plans to revoke our human right to it, to kill everyone and reset the world to zero. Normally, Dust and no one else would really give a shit about this, but Bopo's dad really needs this water, because he's ill or something. So we gotta go show her the business end of Aura to turn these faucets back on. Skipping over everything because it's just more mobbing, the boss fight with Lady Tethys is pretty easy, and I had a significantly easier time with her than I did Fuse because of this never-ending bucket of chicken I found. The boss fights in this game aren't very complex or challenging at all, as for the most part they will only have around 3 moves that are pretty easy to dodge once you learn the tells. Lady Tethys here has this sword arm attack, and this move where she chases you around the arena with electricity. This move would later be shamelessly stolen by Umu in Hollow Knight. After knocking some sense into her, Lady Tethys realizes that I am indeed him, and gives us literally all of the answers as to where we need to go, because she's in tune with the life thread or whatever. Also, Bopo's dad dies. We need to head to the mountains in the far north, as that is where General Gaius is gathering his armies. But first, we need to go through the sorrowing meadows of despair, gloom, doom, and death. This is the scary part of the game. Think about Akana Canyon from Majora's Mask. You gotta go through these 4 different spooky mansions to collect some trinkets to give to this sweet old lady. While at this point, I was starting to notice that my damage was kind of falling off again. It wasn't nearly as bad as it was at the beginning of the challenge. But, remember how I said earlier that there is absolutely no way to increase Fidget's base damage? Well, that's where it's relevant. This is where it's relevant now. Necromancers would begin to appear in this region and instantly teleport away when attacked with melee damage. meaning that the only way to harm them is with fidget. And due to a certain mechanic in this game not allowing you to escape when there are monsters at the end of a screen, I had to fight them over and over again. Hi, Claris. Could you clear my 3 o'clock? I'm currently fighting 2 necromancers. Averaging about 15 minutes per necromancer kill, it actually took me around 3 to 4 hours to complete this section of the game. Returning to the old lady with the mementos, I can finally harm that one ghost that was following me around in those mansions, and dispel the evil inside of him. He thanks me and informs Dust that he is actually walking around with 2 souls. Which is funny, because this is a concept that would be shamelessly stolen by Ruby years later. With the path unblocked, Dust and the party can have a very calm and simple walk through the mountains, until they happen upon the village where it happened. Exactly 1 year ago, this village was destroyed by the royal army for harboring Moonbloods, and Moonblood sympathizers. And coincidentally, Dust was here too. You probably would have figured this out by now, but Dust was once a member of the army, and General Gaius's closest friend. However, a child of pure heart had killed him the same night this raid took place, their souls fusing into a new being called the Mitharan. The body of a killer in the mind of an innocent created a hero pure of heart and with the strength to battle an army. And it just so happens that the innocent child that had killed the royal assassin was also Ginger's brother. So if you thought there was going to be any kind of romance subplot between the two of them, then I'm sorry, it's a little weird now. After getting all of the answers to his past, it's finally time for Dust to create a better future. General Gaius must be killed if there's going to be any hope for Moonbloods to prosper. And maybe the king too, I imagine he's probably got some part to play in this. After rallying the last of the Moonblood soldiers, Dust battles his way to General Gaius to finally right the wrongs of his past. General Gaius was difficult, maybe a bit more than I could handle, but I had the ultimate carry that's been helping me along my journey this entire time. Infinite Wall Chicken. The clash took them all the way to the heart of Elysian, the fires within them burning hotter than the magma around them. After the dust settled, it's clear only justice could prevail. General Gaius and his hatred no longer had a place in this world, and with his defeat, maybe Dust too had finally atoned for the evil part inside of him. I have a lot of nostalgia for this game, but honestly, I really don't think it's as good as I remember it being. Overall, I think the game is still good and worth playing if you're interested in playing some flashy short action game. But most of the systems in this game are pretty bare bones. The world feels too small to be a Metroidvania, and you don't really have any reason to go back to previous areas. The combat system never evolves past the 4 combos that you get at the very beginning of the game. There's absolutely no build variety, as the game never actually lets you specialize in anything. And enemies are really, really basic, normally only having 1 or 2 attacks that amount to swinging at you from the left or the right, making combat feel extremely samey across the entire game. Outside of the story, it feels like you experience the whole game in the first 30 minutes of it. And for the story specifically, I found it to be kind of melodramatic at times. But I'm not really gonna count that against the game. I know for a fact that if I was like 12 when this game came out, I probably would have been really into it.
I never let you see. I keep the cage, but I can't control it. So stay away from me. The beast is ugly. I feel the rage and I just can't.
Thanks for watching.